Zulus, I may say, do not care for flowers unless they bear a fruit that is good to eat. When I had satisfied myself with the splendour of these magnificent blooms, I asked Mrs. Eversley what certain little mounds might be that were dotted about the enclosure, beyond the circle of cultivated peaty soil which surrounded the orchid's roots. "They are the graves of the mothers of the Holy Flower," she answered. "There are 12 of them, and here is the spot chosen for the 13th, which was to have been mine." To change the subject I asked another question, namely, if there were more such orchids growing in the country. "No," she replied, "or at least I never heard of any. Indeed, I have always been told that this one was brought from far away generations ago. Also, under ancient law, it is never allowed to increase. Any shoots it sends up beyond this ring must be cut off by me and destroyed with certain ceremonies. You see that seed pod which has been left to grow on the stalk of one of last year's blooms? It is now ripe, and on the night of the next moon, when the Kalubi comes to visit me, I must with much ritual burn it in his presence, unless it has burst before he arrives, in which case I must burn any seedlings that may spring up with almost the same ritual. I don't think the Kalubi will come any more, at least not while you are here. Indeed, I am sure of it," I said. As we were leaving the place, acting on my general principle of making sure of anything of value when I get the chance, I broke off that ripe seed pod, which was the size of an orange. No one was looking at the time, and as it went straight into my pocket, no one missed it. Then, leaving Stephen and the young lady to admire this Cypripedium, or each other, in the enclosure, we 3 elders returned to the house to discuss matters. "John and Mrs. Eversley," I said, "by Heaven's mercy you are reunited after a terrible separation of over 20 years. But what is to be done now? The god, it is true, is dead, and therefore the passage of the forest will be easy, but beyond it is the water which we have no means of crossing, and beyond the water that old wizard, the Motombo, sits in the mouth of his cave watching like a spider in its web. And beyond the Motombo and his cave are Komba, the new Kalubi, and his tribe of cannibals." "Cannibals?" interrupted Mrs. Eversley. "I never knew that they were cannibals. Indeed, I know little about the Pongo, whom I scarcely ever see." "Then, madam, you must take my word for it that they are. Also, as I believe, that they have every expectation of eating us. As I presume that you do not wish to spend the rest of your lives, which would probably be short, upon this island, I want to ask how you propose to escape safely out of the Pongo country." They shook their heads, which were equally empty of ideas. Only John stroked his white beard and inquired mildly: "What have you arranged, Allan? My dear wife and I are willing to leave the matter to you, who are so resourceful." "Arranged!" I stuttered. "Really, John, under any other circumstances—" Then, after a moment's reflection, I called to Hans and Mavovo, who came and squatted down upon the verandah. "Now," I said, after I had put the case to them, "what have you arranged?" Being devoid of any feasible suggestions, I wished to pass on that intolerable responsibility. "My father makes a mock of us," said Mavovo solemnly. "Can a rat in a pit arrange how it is to get out with the dog that is waiting at the top? So far we have come in safety, as the rat does into the pit. Now I see nothing but death." "That's cheerful," I said. "Your turn, Hans." "Oh! Baas," replied the Hottentot, "for a while I grew clever again when I thought of putting the gun Intombi into the bamboo, but now my head is like a rotten egg, and when I try to shake wisdom out of it, my brain melts and washes from side to side like the stuff in the rotten egg. Yet I have a thought. Let us ask the Missie. Her brain is young and not tired, it may hit on something. To ask the Baas Stephen is no good, for already he is lost in other things," and Hans grinned feebly. More to give myself time than for any other reason, I called to Miss Hope, who had just emerged from the sacred enclosure with Stephen, and put the riddle to her, speaking very slowly and clearly so that she might understand me. To my surprise she answered at once. "What is a god, O Mr. Allan? Is it not more than man? Can a god be bound in a pit for 1,000 years, like Satan in Bible? If a god want to move, see new country and so on, who can say no?" "I don't quite understand," I said, to draw her out further, although in fact I had more than a glimmering of what she meant. "Oh, Allan, Holy Flower there a god, and my mother priestess. If Holy Flower tired of this land and want to grow somewhere else, Why, priestess, not carry it and go too?" "Capital idea," I said. "But you see, Miss Hope, there are, or were, two gods, one of which cannot travel." "Oh, that very easy too. Put skin of god of the woods on to this man," and she pointed to Hans, "and who no difference? They like as two brothers already, only he smaller." "She's got it, by Jingo, she's got it!" exclaimed Stephen in admiration. "What Missy say?" asked Hans suspiciously. I told him. "Oh! Baas," exclaimed Hans, "think of the smell inside of that god's skin when the sun shines on it. Also the god was a very big god, and I am small." Then he turned and made a proposal to Mavovo, explaining that his stature was much better suited to the job. "First will I die," answered the great Zulu. "Am I, who have high blood in my veins, and who am a warrior, to defile myself by wrapping the skin of a dead brute about me and appear as an ape before men? Propose it to me again, Spotted Snake, and we shall quarrel." "See here, Hans," I said, "Mavovo is right. He is a soldier and very strong in battle. You also are very strong in your wits, and by doing this you will make fools of all the Pongo. Also, Hans, it is better that you should wear the skin of a gorilla for a few hours than that I, your master, and all these should be killed." "Yes, Baas, it is true, though for myself I almost think that, like Mavovo, I would rather die. Yet it would be sweet to deceive these Pongo once again, and, Baas, I won't see you killed just to save myself another bad smell or two. So if you wish it I will become a god." Thus, through the self-sacrifice of that good fellow Hans, who is the real hero of this history, that matter was settled, if anything could be looked on as settled in our circumstances. Then we arranged that we should start upon our desperate adventure at dawn on the following morning. Meanwhile much remained to be done. First Mrs. Eversley summoned her attendants, who, to the number of 12, soon appeared in front of the verandah. It was very sad to see these poor women, all of whom were albinos and unpleasant to look on, while quite half appeared to be deaf and dumb. To these, speaking as a priestess, she explained that the god who dwelt in the woods was dead, and that therefore she must take the Holy Flower, which was called the Wife of the God, and make report to the Motombo of this dreadful catastrophe. Meanwhile they must remain on the island and continue to cultivate the fields. This order threw the poor creatures, who were evidently much attached to their mistress and her daughter, into a great state of consternation. The eldest of them all, a tall, thin old lady with white wool and pink eyes, who looked, as Stephen said, like an Angora rabbit, prostrated herself and, kissing the mother's foot, asked when she would return, since she and the Daughter of the Flower were all they had to love, and without them they would die of grief. Suppressing her evident emotion as best she could, the mother replied that she did not know. It depended on the will of Heaven and the Motombo. Then, to prevent further argument, she bade them bring their picks with which they worked the land, also poles, mats and palm string, and help to dig up the Holy Flower. This was done under the superintendence of Stephen, who here was thoroughly in his element, although the job proved far from easy. Also it was sad, for all these women wept as they worked, while some of them who were not dumb wailed aloud. Even Miss Hope cried, and I could see that her mother was affected with a kind of awe. For 20 years she had been guardian of this plant, with which I think she had at last, not unnaturally, come to look upon with the same veneration that was felt for it by the whole Pongo people. "I fear," she said, "lest this sacrilege should bring misfortune upon us." But Brother John, who held very definite views upon African superstitions, quoted the second commandment to her, and she became silent. We got the thing up at last, or most of it, with a sufficiency of earth to keep it alive, injuring the roots as little as possible in the process. Underneath it, at a depth of about 3 feet, we found several things. One of these was an ancient stone fetish that was rudely shaped to the likeness of a monkey, and wore a gold crown. This object, which was small, I still have. Another was a bed of charcoal, and amongst the charcoal were some partially burnt bones, including a skull that was very little injured. This may have belonged to a woman of a low type, perhaps the first mother of the Flower, but its general appearance reminded me of that of a gorilla. I regret that there was neither time nor light to enable me to make a proper examination of these remains, which we found impossible to bring away. Mrs. Eversley told me afterwards, however, that the Kalubis had a tradition that the god once possessed a wife which died before the